The Stranger Things Podcast, Season 2, Episode 1, Mad Max.
Oh, no. No!
751,300 points. That's impossible.
Who's Mad Max?
Better than you.
Is it you?
You know I despise Dig Dug.
Then who is it?
Yeah, spill it, Keith.
You want information? Then I need something in return.
No way. You're not getting a date with her. Mike, come on. Just get him the date. I'm not prostituting my sister, but it's for a good cause.
No, don't get him the date. You know what? He's gonna spread his nasty-ass rash to your whole family.
Acne isn't a rash and it isn't contagious, you prepubescent wasteoid.
Oh, I'm a waste.
Yeah,
You wouldn't want to go on a date with you. Could you make like $2.50 an hour?
Welcome back to the Stranger Things Podcast, a fan podcast dedicated to the Netflix original series,
Stranger Things.
I'm Daryl.
And I'm Addie.
Hi, Addie. How are you?
Good.
So glad that you've joined us for today's episode. I thought we would take just maybe a minute at the most and give a brief overview of who we are, because I think it's possible that we've got some folks tuning in for the first time to this podcast episode. Even though this is season 2 of our podcast, we came in late. We just did season 1 over the summer. And so if you're joining us for the first time, I want to say welcome and thank you for tuning into our podcast. As we introduced ourselves, I'm Daryl. I have the privilege of being Addison's dad.
That's unfortunate.
And so we're obviously a daddy-daughter duo doing Stranger Things. And so the format of our show is we do one podcast episode a week, and we cover one episode of Stranger Things per week. So if you're looking for a podcast that is going to binge all through all the episodes like you've probably already done on Netflix, this might not be the podcast for you. Or although, I mean, we'd love to have you week after week. It just know that we're going to be releasing one episode a week for our podcast. And so the format of our podcast is Addie has binged the whole season already.
It's been like how many days?
It's been 2 days. And you've already seen the entire second season, as I think most people have. I have not. I've only seen episode 1 of season 2. And so I will continue to watch each episode 1 a week. She will watch, or she has watched the entire season. But different for this season is that's it. She only got to watch the season once. And now she will be watching week to week with me. So she has an idea, like whatever she can remember is fine, but she doesn't get to continue to watch it over and over again.
All of it.
So hopefully that'll be fun, especially as we get her further removed from what she saw this weekend. But anyway, thanks for tuning in today for our podcast. Addie, it's great to be doing season 2 with you.
Okay.
All right. Now, Addie and I had a meeting a few weeks ago, and we talked about what our dislikes and what our likes about were our podcast. And the top of the list for both of us was that Addie needs to speak more often. Like that was one of the things we both wanted for season 2. So
I find that really funny because you've done like 99.9% of the talking so far.
I'm putting that out there just as a reminder to both of us that I need to shut up more and you need to talk more and assert yourself more. So we'll see how that goes. Addie, what are we talking about today?
Stranger Things Season 2, Episode 1.
And what's it called?
Mad Max.
That's right. And who wrote this episode?
It's written by the Duffer Brothers.
And who directed the episode?
The Duffer Brothers.
You're looking. I know what that look is. All right, we'll play. See, I said they weren't going to do this in season 2. And who are they?
I don't know. I think they're cousins.
Oh, okay. Is that how they know each other?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with that. Well, we had a lot of new faces on this episode of Stranger Things. So we mentioned some of these in our season 2 predictions episode. So if you listen to that, season 2 episode 0 is what we numbered it, then we covered a little bit of this already, but we also had some other characters that I didn't expect. And so we made a list of all the new characters, at least the main recurring ones as we see them so far. Addie, do you want to hit this or shall I go through it?
I can do it. Okay. Max is played by Sadie Sink. Billy is played by Dacre Montgomery. Bob Newby is played by Sean Astin. Dr. Owens is played by Paul Reiser. Callie Roman.
I'm not sure. I'm confused. You might know more on that than I do. I'm a little confused at who is who on that right now, but
Okay, she's played by, is it Linnea?
Linnea would be my guess, but I'm not sure.
Berthelsen, what? How do you say that?
Berthelsen is how I would say it.
Murray Bowman is played by Brett Gelman.
Gellman would be my guess. I don't know. I mean, we look at a name and we assume it's pronunciation, but that gets you in trouble sometimes.
I don't know.
I know the first several times I pronounced Jessica's name, I thought it was Jessica. And she gets that a lot for people who don't know how to pronounce it. But the first time I talked to her agent, he said he referred to her as Jessica, and I instantly knew that I'd been saying it wrong up to that point. So if we've mispronounced any of these names and you're listening to our podcast and we've just mispronounced your name, we're sorry. But, shout out to us and let us know how to pronounce it properly. We would love to do that. All right, well, let's talk about what's on the agenda for today's episode. The first thing up is we're going to do an episode recap, and that's going to come from Wikipedia. And then we're going to do an episode discussion. That's where we'll spend most of the time today talking about the things we liked and didn't like and just points of discussion about the episode. New to this season, something we've done in the past on other Golden Spiral Media podcast episodes, and that is an episode rating. So we both have an episode rating that we're going to give it. We're going to talk about some of the pop culture things that we saw in this episode, although I think we're actually going to push that back to feedback because one of our feedbackers made point of that. And so I thought we might just segue it in that part. Which brings me to the next section, which is listener feedback. We call that Notes from the Upside Down. And before we get out of here, we have a quote of the week, which if you're joining us for the Facebook Live, you already got a little preview of that by mistake. Predictions? I didn't put any predictions in, so we'll see what comes along through our discussion as we go through that. We have some news and rumors, not really any rumors today, but news, which we call the Hawkins Report. And then we'll get out of here with the meme
of the week.
The meme of the week.
The meme of the week.
That never gets old for me. Hopefully it doesn't get old.
Hey, you know what does get old? You.
All right. Well, let's get things kicked off with our episode recap. Almost a year after the events of the first season, a psychic girl with a tattooed identical to Eleven's, marking her as number 8, is working as part of a criminal gang in Pittsburgh. Back in Hawkins, Will, Mike, Dustin, and Lucas meet a new girl at school, Max, who immediately captures the interest of Dustin and Lucas. Mike and Nancy are still dealing with the losses of Eleven and Barb, respectively. Will has been experiencing episodes, hallucinations of the Upside Down that feature visions of an enormous tentacled creature. Joyce and Hopper take Will to be seen at the lab by the new head scientist, Dr. Owens. At the end of the episode, Hopper goes home to a cabin in the woods where he lives with Eleven, who is revealed to still be alive. All right, Addie, episode recap is done. That means it is time for episode discussion. So I don't know what you were expecting. Like, I had put zero thought into what will be the first shot of season 2. I never really even thought about that.
I didn't really think about that either.
We get season 2 and it has the same opening shot as season 1, right? Which is up at the stars and then the camera pans down and I'm like, all right, here we go. It's got that Stranger Things feel, like right out of the first second, except a second later, we're told that we're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And so I was expecting the camera to pan down and be in Hawkins on the lab or something like that. Not in Pittsburgh. So immediately, right out of the gate, this has me kind of on my heels, if you will. Something's hitting me that I was not expecting, which I loved. What about you?
Yeah, I liked how it started, like season 1. The camera like went down and then it's all like calm and peaceful, and then you get inside the lab and it's just like this dude running. Yeah. And I kind of feel like it was like the same way, like it's all stars, calm and peaceful, and it goes down and it's like go 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 go, and they're like breaking. You know what I mean? They're getting away. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a car chase. Yeah. Yeah, it was, you're right. It had that adrenaline filled rush that we got season 1, except in a very different way. I mean, with the car chase and the bank robbery or whatever it was they were making off with. Did you have any inkling that we were looking at another number, if you will, and prior to us getting it, 008 on the screen? Like, at what point did you figure out we were looking at another 11, for lack of a better phrase?
I don't know. Well, okay, so I know from my friend, I watched this beginning part with her in health. So she realized that it was another 11.
Yeah, we got to come up with a better name. If you're listening and you've got a great name for these folks, let us know.
Another lab rat.
There you go.
She realized it whenever she crushed her hand like that.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't realize it until whenever I was watching it on my phone screen, and it was dark. I had my brightness all the way up, but I still couldn't really see details and stuff. So I thought she had a small button in her hand or something, and so she had planted a bomb there, and that's how she knew to go through the bridge. And I was like, or the tunnel. And I was like, okay, so she just planted the bomb and she's just a really bad person. Cool. And then I was kind of getting skeptical whenever the other policeman who was in the passenger side of the car, when he was like, what are you doing? Why did you stop? And he was getting all mad at the, what's his name? Was it Adam?
I don't know. I didn't even think to write down his name or anything.
Oh, well, yeah, he was getting all mad at him for stopping like that. Yeah. And I was like, that's kind of weird. I mean, wouldn't he see it's right there?
Right.
And then I knew for sure whenever the camera turns around, it's on the tunnel and you see nothing there. And I'm like, wait a second, what? Yeah. So then I'm like, okay, there's something else going on here. And then you see the bloody nose and the 008, and I'm like, oh yeah. I'm
you and I were on the same page then. I was a little confused even after they panned back to the scene and you don't see any rubble. I'm like, I was like, oh, wait a minute, I thought it would be messier. I was not understanding that it was all in her mind. I thought she had physically made the bridge collapse a little bit, but it turned out she just changed what he saw. She was able to get into his mind and change what he was seeing. So that's even cooler. I don't know that we've seen 11 do that type of thing, where she's able to physically move things and manipulate things. But one of our listeners, and I meant to go back and figure out who it was. We got some feedback that we shared last week in our hopes and predictions episode. One of the listeners said that they hoped that we got more numbers like this. And so we spent a little bit of time talking about that during that feedback. And you and I both hoped that would be the case. I don't think any of us, I don't want to speak for the feedbacker. I know I certainly didn't expect to get that as our opening scene of season 2. So that's really exciting for me.
Yep, that was cool.
Okay. And I also wanted to say, I know I talked a lot about Fringe during season 1. I don't know how much I'll talk about it in season 2, but if you haven't seen Fringe and this style of opening really grabbed you and you liked it, then again, go check out Fringe, because it was chock full of openings like this, and they're just so good.
And as my note reads, who cares? Stranger Things is the best.
Whatever. Okay. So from there, we are in the arcade, and man, I love this so much. I mean, I was just, the feels, they were all over me, because obviously arcades still exist today. We have one at our mall. Where else have we seen an well, we have the Chuck E. Cheese types of things. Main Event, we have one here, and some different things like that. But arcades of today are not like what we saw here on Stranger Things. They did this right. It was wall to wall arcade machines that were like this, these 8 or 16-bit wonderful things. And I don't know, I made a note of all the ones that I could identify. There were a couple that I'm like, that looks familiar. I can't quite place my finger on it, but we saw Dragon's Lair, obviously.
Really?
Missile Command, Centipede, Dig Dug, Galaga, Miss Pac-Man, Pac-Man, Asteroids. There was some pinball going on. I think we saw Pole Position. There was one that said Atari clearly on it, and I think that was Pole Position, but I'm not sure. It was great. I wish that you had grown up in the era where there were arcades like this around you, because even though like we had an Atari 2600 that had some of these games on there, we had Centipede and Pac-Man and Asteroids, for example, and even Missile Command, I think. There was something about going to the arcade with your friends, pumping in quarters, and that quarter was your lifeblood. I mean, because if we had our parents bowled every Tuesday. I've told you this lots of times, and we've gone to the arcade at the bowling alley, right? And there's nothing there now. It's a crane machine and a air hockey table and a thing where you can try to get an iPhone or something. It rips you completely off. And
don't forget those really good banana flavored candies,
Runts, and there's little bubble things that you can pull cheap toys out of, and those things existed. Like I remember getting a rabbit's foot out of one of those things, but the arcade machines were it. And like we had this little place downtown. We grew up in this tiny little town, and it had Spy Hunter, and like, man, Spy Hunter was the best. And even at the arcade at the bowling alley, there was a game called Kung Fu that I liked. My brother, Uncle Nathan, he liked 10-Yard Fight, was a football game, and Pole Position, Outrun, and I always loved race car games. So, but you know, our parents would give us $1 each. That's 4 quarters. And like Dragon's Lair, that was a 50-cent game. And so anyway, it was so much fun going to the arcade, and you knew that those quarters, they were precious. You know, I don't know. It's hard. I don't know how to describe it, you know, as to generation like you to really help you appreciate and understand what the arcade was. I thought they did a fantastic job depicting it here in the show. The enthusiasm those boys had was exactly what we had every time we went to the arcade with our brothers or our friends, and just trying to really enjoy those moments. They were great. So kudos to the show for what they did. Did you see what I changed Dragon's Lair to? Dragon's Lair. Layer. Okay. Look at you.
I don't know why, but every time I hear it, I just think of layer spelled like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. Okay. So, anyway, Willie's a Vision.
Yeah, this was a little different than what I thought we were going to see. This is one of those things in the trailer they mixed and mashed a little bit from 2 different scenes. In fact, my note here was originally wrong, and I'm like, wait a minute, we didn't see the Tesla Hydra in that opening scene, but we do see Will.
Tesla Hydra?
Thank you. Thank you. But we do see Will having a vision of the Upside Down, and a storm is coming, which is ominous and foreboding and foreshadowing as far as I'm concerned, right? But it was cool. No surprise there with that scene, but it was definitely cool. Whenever Mike goes out there to check on Will, because he's a good friend and an amazing person, in the trailer, they like cut it off right before Will says anything. So it's like, oh, is Will just going to like ignore him or like not say anything? But then he like in the actual show, he ends up saying like, oh yeah, I'm fine or whatever, something like that. I don't remember exactly. So yeah. I thought you were going to say more. Yeah. So from there we go to the police station. I loved Flo in this scene. She's replacing donuts with apples and putting cigarettes out of his mouth. She's clearly trying to get Hopper to take better care of himself. She's like the mom of the group. She's like the mom friend. Yeah. I loved how he took one bite of the apple, spit it out, and
threw the rest away.
Yeah, put the cigarette back in his mouth. So she's got her work cut out for her. Okay, so we get introduced. You and I speculated in our preview episode that the conspiracy theory guy, might be Barb's dad. Like, who's this guy? Is he just a conspiracy theorist guy, or is he perhaps Barb's dad? Because we saw that he had some notes specific to Barb.
Well, I didn't think it was Barb's dad. I thought that I didn't know about the conspiracy theory guy. I wasn't paying attention. I just thought that the one who was like collecting all the notes about Barb was her dad, and then like the conspiracy theory guy was like a completely different person.
I have to admit, I'm a little bit confused here. The guy that we see the business card for at the Kentucky Fried Chicken dinner, that's the same guy that was at the police station at the beginning here with Hopper, right?
I don't know. I didn't pay attention to that.
You've seen the whole season, so hopefully based on that information. I'm just trying to see if I'm confused or not, because I thought Hopper called him Merv, which is his actual name is Murray. And so the guy on the business card was Murray. So did I mishear Hopper, or is there a guy named Merv and another guy named Murray?
I don't think there's anyone named Merv.
Okay.
I mean, you could have just misheard it, or maybe that's like a nickname.
Oh, and maybe he said Murr, right? Like Murray, Hopper, right? So maybe that's what he called him, and I thought, Murr, that's weird. I mean, I must have heard Merv. So anyway, okay. So yeah, he's no relation to Barb. He's a conspiracy theorist, but it sure made for a funny scene where...
Yeah, I love how sarcastic Hopper was, and he just like didn't care. And like in season 1, when he was talking about like the gnomes, like whenever he first gets to work clothes, like the gnomes and whoever's yard or whatever, and now all of a sudden this dude's talking to him, and there's a pumpkin patch.
Yeah.
Oh, this is an emergency. Gotta go. Sorry.
I love how Flo was like, you're welcome. Like she knows that she's totally getting him out of the guy that just drives them all crazy. You know, you remember, again, thinking about how season 2 might parallel season 1. And obviously, again, you know more than I do. But you just mentioned it. In season 1, it started out similarly with that gotcha scene before the opening credits. And then pretty quickly after that, we end up in the police station, coffee and contemplation. Oh, Joyce is in the office now. And we get kicked right into what will be the investigation of the entire season. And so I'm just wondering if we've got a similar progression here, where are we going to be investigating Barb? Is that going to be a primary plot point of season 2? I wouldn't have thought so. But now I'm kind of wondering, is finding Barb, the quest for Barb, is that going to be a prominent thing?
Do you really want me to tell you?
No, I know you can't. I don't want to know it. I don't want anyone else who's in my position to be spoiled. So just throwing that out there for observation.
Do you want to at least know if she's like mentioned again?
No, because I'm quite sure she will be. Let's talk about the appearance of the 2 of the new characters. We just talked about one of them. Third and fourth new characters are Billy and Max. And Billy shows up to high school. The girls are checking him out.
That was really funny.
Yeah. I just thought it was rude. Like he drives himself to high school, and now his sister has to hop on her skateboard and take herself over to Hawkins Middle School. Now they could be pretty close. We don't know how close they are.
It kind of seems like they're in the same building.
What? No, but in the game, the app, they're right next door to each other. So it could be that they're really close to each other. I just thought it was weird that he didn't bother to drop her off at school. He took himself to school, and then she had to fend for herself to get the rest of the way.
Boo-hoo.
Wow. No sympathy from Addie. Did you like her skateboard? Is that pretty cool that she's a skateboarder?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Skateboardist. What do you call them?
I don't know, and I don't care.
Okay. Then.
Yeah, some of my friends skateboard, so it's kind of cool. It's like, I've been wanting to skateboard for a couple years now. I guess Mom thought it was too dangerous or something, so I really haven't yet. But I've been sometimes at my friend's house would practice, and I would always fall off. So I wasn't too good, but yeah, that was really cool. I was kind of jealous, like, oh wow, she can do that. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And she's like really chill, like just arcade games and just skateboarding. And then like a later scene whenever she like throws the trash away and like tells them to like stop stalking them.
Right.
That was really funny because she's just. Yeah, she can handle things.
Yeah, you're right. She is super chill. She didn't get a lot of lines. I'm trying to think, she got to argue with her brother. She got to stand in front of the class and tell them that she doesn't go by Maxine. She didn't get a lot of lines in this opening episode, but we learn a lot about her personality and her interests. So there's still a lot of framework that's set about her character. She's obviously smart and observant, calling them out on stalking her. So yeah, they've done, even though she didn't get a lot of lines in this first episode, they've done a really good job of kind of helping us understand who she is and what she's capable of, at least initially. I think there's more than meets the eye here with her, but they've done a really good job with her so far. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to learn more about her. Now, another scene that happened at school had to do with Will and the note/newspaper clipping he found in his locker. Why are you laughing about that?
My note.
What does your note say?
I will fight whoever wrote that. No one bullies my children.
That was really sad, wasn't it?
I know. I almost started crying. I was like, who would say that to him?
Yeah. That's mean. I mean, that's what kids are. Kids are mean, but that was really sad. Now, did you pause it and read the article?
No.
It said that the body had been misidentified by the coroner as Will, and he was found in a nearby cabin, which obviously is fake. That's not where he was found. But, they had to come up with a story to tell the press. But anyway, the state coroner was arrested. So what that ended up doing was the state coroner ended up being the fall guy. Somebody had to take the rap for how they misidentified and buried, someone who wasn't Will. And they weren't going to tell the truth about it. So somebody had to be the fall guy, if you will. And so the state coroner was that, and he got arrested. And it didn't say if he went to jail or not. But anyway, that was what the article said.
Cool.
Oh, you've got a note in here about Mr. Clark.
Yeah. How do they have the same teacher that they had last year?
Well, so you never had an instance where you had a teacher more than one time, like in a different grade?
Well, I mean, electives, yeah. But he's a science teacher.
Yeah.
That's not an elective.
Okay. So it might just be the size of town that you're in. You're in a very large town, the very big school district. Like for me, for example, especially like English, we would have had I had the same English teacher as a junior and a senior in high school. Some of my other classes, math would have had the same teacher, regardless of which grade you're in. Now, geometry had a separate teacher, but no, I had her for Algebra 1 and I had her for geometry. I might have even had her for Algebra 2. So yeah, so in a smaller town, which my town was smaller than Hawkins, that's very, very likely. For biology, chemistry, and biology 2, I had the same teacher in high school. So yeah, it could happen for sure.
Oh, I'm not used to that.
Yep. And Mr. Clark's a pretty cool character, so I'm glad that they found a way. Now, next year, the boys are in 8th grade. I think they made that clear that they are in 8th grade. So
yeah, I thought they were in high school now.
No, they're not. But on the board in his class, it says something about 8th grade assignments and stuff like that. So next year, I don't know. We'll see with Mr. Clark. Will he make, hey guys, I'm in high school now, like Mr. Belding was in Saved by the Bell. You don't know what Saved by the Bell was. Great.
I've heard of it, but I haven't watched it. Wait, I think I have watched like one episode of it. Mm-hmm. We watched it in math last year.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we speculated a little bit on the scene where Max came into class during our predictions episode last week. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that scene now that you've actually seen the whole thing?
The boys stare at her. Even Mike. Mm-hmm. Triggered.
Wow.
Please stop. Just stop looking at her.
Like, what? I mean, it just seemed natural to look at her. You've got this interesting person that just came into class.
No one else was looking at her, though. It was just them four.
Yeah. But do you think that they all made the connection of Mad Max and now here's this person named Max who's joined our class? Or do you think they looked at her like, ooh, here's a cute girl that just came to class?
I don't know. I think Justin and Lucas definitely noticed it because didn't he didn't Lucas look at Dustin and say Max or something like that?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So but what about Mike?
If she doesn't stop staring at her this close to murder.
Wow. You're jealous about a dude that okay, I don't even know how to explain that. Let's move on. I see, this is where I wish you were with me. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with the pumpkin patch because I don't think it has anything to do with what was the neighbor, Eugene or whatever I didn't
Eugene?
write it down. Yeah. But I don't know what's going on. Like, what would cause the pumpkins? And we've seen things going on with the pumpkins in the trailers. If you've played the Stranger Things game, pumpkins being rotted are included in that. But I don't know why, and I don't know why it's significant. My only theory, and this is pretty lame brain, I think, we saw in the trailer some tunnels, and I had a theory on the tunnels in our predictions episode, which I'm sticking with. I don't see any reason to change that theory. Maybe there's a tunnel underneath the pumpkin patch that caused them to rot. So maybe whatever's causing the tunnels, digging the tunnels, dug one underneath the pumpkin patch overnight, and it caused them to rot. But then it's like, well, why would it cause them to rot so rapidly? And I mean, look, the Upside Down would have, if the tunnel creator is tied to the Upside Down, and you also and I talked about how the Upside Down might be spreading, right? It was something you mentioned. So I don't know. I don't know what to do, unless perhaps something happened to that pumpkin patch in the Upside Down and it was significant enough to cause it to have like a reverberation into the right side up at that same spot.
I guess.
I know you can't say anything. I'm just trying to throw theories out there, knowing that they'll be wrong, but I'm okay with that. Let's talk about Will visiting the doctor. I'm completely confused by this, Addie, because when they first go to the doctor, I didn't think too much of it. But then as they leave the doctor, I'm like, wait, that looks like, because we got the wide shot of the building, and I'm like, that looks like the Hawkins lab. And then when I rewatched it, I mean, it's totally the Hawkins lab. At least it seems that it is, because the Paul Reiser character, after he goes inside and waves bye to Hopper, he goes down, gets in the elevator that looks just like the elevator from season 1, episode 1, when the scientist is trying to get away at the very opening, right? Where you have that kind of double closed door type of elevator. So I'm led to believe this is the lab, the Hawkins lab. And I'm like, why would Joyce and Hopper take Will back to that place of all places? So I'm completely confused. I don't know what to make of this. It makes no sense to me why that's where the doctor is. And knowing that's where the doctor is, and both of them know what went on there, why would they take him back there? Is there anything you can say about this?
Hopper said that that he had a degree, and so it sounds like no one else has that degree that could help him. You're
right. He did say that. And maybe that's the purpose of that line, is to help us understand why they made that decision.
And the fact that they were watching him through the monitors, that's just creepy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's somewhat standard, where there's an observation area so that either other doctors can now consult with the one doctor later. But in this case, knowing who it is, yeah, it's definitely creepy, and it makes you just feel that much uneasy about what's going on with Will. Okay, let's talk about one of the funnier scenes. I thought it was funny. At the Wheeler house, Mike is having a conversation with his parents, and he's kind of getting in trouble a little bit, and he has to give up 2 boxes of toys. What I thought was funny is they've talked about how this is like strike 20. Like, this isn't even strike 1 or strike 3. It's like strike 20. And then his dad says the one line that all parents say at some point. Well, if your friends jumped off a cliff.
You've never said that, though. You or Mom.
Well, I've tried to avoid some of those tropes and stereotype things, that parents say. But we still got you for a few more years, so I might at some point say that line. But then he says something weird like this. When he says this isn't even strike 20, he says, if it had been my coach, you'd be lucky to still be on the team. Like, what does that even mean? Like, you're lucky to be part of this family. If it had been my coach, you'd been kicked out of this family with this behavior. Like, that doesn't happen. You don't get kicked out of your family. At least I hope not. I don't know. I just thought it was a weird line. But it was a funny scene. Whenever
he called Mike's toys just hunks of plastic, I was like, that is so rude. Like, there are things that he enjoys playing with and things that he likes. Like whenever I had my American Girl doll, like whenever I was in like, elementary school, I mean, you called her a Dora doll, but you were like, oh, she's fake. She's not real. Like, I know she's a piece of plastic, but like there's still that emotional value. And like, surely his dad should understand. Like, did he not play with toys whenever he was Mike's age? Like, he should have been more understanding. He was just so rude. I wanted to punch him in the face.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and talk about that. Let's segue that into the scene where we see Mike packing up the toys.
That was sad. I was like, oh, all his toys and stuff, because I don't know, getting rid of old things makes me sad. I don't like doing that. And when he picked up the T-Rex, I was like, oh, why? And then he had the Millennium Falcon.
The Millennium Falcon?
No, I know what I said.
Okay.
Because whenever Colby made it out of the Legos, there were like a billion pieces to it, so I call it the Millennium Falcon.
Gotcha. Billion pieces, call it a Millennium Falcon. Gotcha. Yeah, man, that was so sad. I mean, as you said, playing with the T-Rex, and then that caused him to look over and then at what was 11's bed, and then go over there and jump on the walkie-talkie. And then Dustin comes on. So the first time you heard him say, Mike, did you think it was her?
Yeah, I thought it was her because it sounded like a girl.
It did, yeah.
And then
the second time you could tell.
The second time I was like, wait, that's not right. And then the third time on, obviously, it wasn't really distorted anymore.
Yeah. And
he was like, why are you still on this channel?
Yeah. So I guess they had been trying to get him on their main channel, but Mike's on the other channel trying to get 11. But yeah, really sad. I'll talk about this when we wrap up. I've got more thoughts on some of these scenes, but this one was really sad and emotional and really, really well done. I'll just kind of leave it at that for right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about 11 Herbs and Spices. Nancy and Steve have dinner with the Hollands, or Barb's parents.
This was my note.
I'm setting you up. It's called a segue.
Fine. Continue.
What were your thoughts on that scene, Addie?
So, I was kind of upset that she didn't tell Barb's parents about like what happened to Barb. I mean, I know it's kind of difficult to explain and she probably wouldn't really understand, but I think she should have at least told her like what happened. I mean, maybe not right at that second, but like, yeah, I mean, maybe like after the dinner, or just calmly like explain to them, yeah, like she's dead, our friend found her, something like that, just so they would stop worrying about her. Because whenever she said that she was still hopeful, I was like, that's so sad. And that they were spending like every penny on it, and she already knows what happened, and you could tell that she felt bad because they were selling the house.
Yeah.
And she already knows the outcome. So, and then, so in the trailer, there was a clip of Nancy crying in a bathroom. And then, like, right before it, there was a clip of Steve, like, in sunglasses, like, dancing. And I was like, oh, wait, did they, like, break up? Is that why she's crying? So, I thought she was crying because she and Steve broke up. That wasn't the case.
Yeah, this scene was. Can you imagine the burden that she's carrying?
Yeah, that would be really bad. And whenever she sees Barb, she's just like, she puts the picture down. Yeah,
I mean, she's got to feel incredibly guilty still. Like she did in season 1, she felt like anything that had happened to Barb was her fault. And that's why she was so relentlessly trying to find out what happened to her. But now she not only carries that, but the burden of knowing that Barb's parents are selling everything they have to try to find her, which of course they are. Which parent, who wouldn't? But she also knows that what they're doing is a fool's errand. She's dead. There's nothing to be gained from it except closure. But like, is there closure to be found? Barb's body is in another dimension, and who knows how to get back there. So it's incredibly sad. And I'm curious to see how it gets resolved, if if it gets resolved. I hope it does for all of their sakes, Barb and the parents and Nancy.
Moving on.
Okay. So Dustin and Lucas are biking home and they part ways right at Dustin's house. He thinks he hears something outside of his house. Now, he's led to believe it was the cat, but it's not the cat. It can't be the cat. Muse, yeah. It can't be the cat because that's not worth showing, right? So it's got to be something else. And I'm really curious as to what it is, because the only thing we've seen that's sinister so far is Will's vision of the Tesla Hydra, or whatever we end up calling it. You know, I don't. So I'm just really intrigued by this. I mean, last season we had the Demogorgon, which could kind of sneak in and sneak out of places, but the Tesla Hydra doesn't seem to be that type of creature, unless maybe the tunnel is involved. I know I keep coming back to tunnels. I'm just really intrigued by those that we saw in the trailers. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. I'm just trying to keep the conversation open about that because it's important. And I know you can't say anything about that. Okay. Let's talk about Jonathan and Will. This is one of my favorite scenes of the episode. In fact, I thought about including it as a nomination for Quote of the Week. Quote of the Week is ultimately up to Addie. She gets to decide that. And, you know, sometimes I'll throw in my 2 cents. And I thought about throwing this scene in as just as an option. Obviously, you would have ultimately chosen what we do for Quote of the Week, but it was so good. I mean, I never had the situation that the Byers brothers are in, but I never really had a deep conversation like this with my brother either. Not that I feel like that was missing or anything like that. I don't know. I just thought it was really super cool of Jonathan. Now, my brother and I are closer in age. You know, we're like 21 months apart, I think is what we are, where these guys appear to be, 5 years apart. So I think there's that piece of it as well. But anyway, I just loved Jonathan in this because, you know, as Will says to him, you just think I'm a freak. He could have just said, you know what? I'm trying to be nice to you, or, you know, whatever, like siblings would do. Right. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't do that. He does a very mature thing. And he's like, I'm not going to respond to, you know, when someone says something like that defensive, you're not obligated to respond in kind. You can take whatever approach you want. And Jonathan said he took a very high road, a very mature approach, and an approach which ended up bringing them closer together. So I loved this scene between the two brothers.
Yeah, I liked his expression after Jonathan was like, yeah, you are a freak. And Will was just like, what?
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for agreeing with me on that. You weren't supposed to agree.
Yeah, just a super cool scene between the brothers. After that, or shortly after that, we see Will going to the bathroom and then gets to the other vision of the Upside Down. And this is the scene that we had seen more prevalent in the trailers, where you get the kind of the lightning and the you get to see that when the lightning flashes, you know, the outline of the Tesla Hydra. So really, really cool. And, you know, just has me more excited to see what's going on with the monster. Hopefully they won't drag that out too much in terms of development. And we've seen, because we're here done with season 2, episode 1, and I don't know any more about the Tesla Hydra than I did when I saw the very first trailer for season 2, right? So hopefully they'll move in on this and not drag it out, but I'm still very, very excited about it.
Yeah, and you can see, like, you got chills.
Yeah, that was a cool effect, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was really cool. Like, I wonder if Noah actually got chills or if it was, like, special effects, but that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know how they did it either, but it was effective. Okay. Final scene of the episode. I loved this because we watched the episode together. Now you got up early on Friday morning, woke up before your alarm went off.
I don't know how I managed to do that.
Well, your brain was even subconsciously thinking about Stranger Things. You got to watch part of it before school.
Yeah, I watched like 7 minutes of it before school started, and then I watched the rest during the school day.
Yeah, as you mentioned, you had a couple of classes where you had some free time, and so you spent that free time watching Stranger Things. So that by the time you got home from school, you had managed to see the entire first episode.
Actually, I think I had 3 minutes left. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So were they to the cabin yet?
Yeah, but I think like the last part was just like the credits. So I had like a little bit of actual like episode left, and then like the most of it was just credits. So I don't watch the credits.
Yeah, sure. So, and then that night we went to Target. We got a notebook for you, and which
that was so cool. I was gonna bring it in here, but
yeah, we got. So we were going to have a watch party, the three of us, your mom and I and you, and your brother was gone to a friend's house. So let's see, what did we get? We got off-brand Nilla wafers, because those aren't real Nilla wafers.
The oatmeal kind.
I don't think anybody would remember that if you didn't keep bringing it up. We got Coke cans, or cans of Coke. We got Eggo waffles, pudding cups.
Chocolate pudding cups.
Yep. And pizza, because the boys were eating pizza while they were playing D&D. These are all based on season 1 references. I think we realized this morning that we could have also acquired donuts, because Hopper likes donuts.
Yeah, and now I'm upset that we didn't get those.
It was all junk. It was total junk food fest. It was like, I think I gained 5 pounds from that night of eating alone.
Cool, and I gained 0. So
I know,
continue.
You have the metabolism I used to have. So we watched the episode together. And we get to this point in the episode, and I'm so glad we watched this as we were watching this. Like I thought it was fun to watch it, because you and I have never seen an episode together. We've never sat down and watched an episode together.
I know, I like that.
And with any of us, like your mom or anything, because everybody in our family kind of watched it one at a time, and I ended up being the last person to watch. So Mom and I are watching this episode for the first time. You're watching it, I guess, for the second time, and he pulls up. And he there's the trip line, and I'm like, is he going to see that? As soon as he hit that with his flashlight and stepped over it, I was like, he knows this place. That's his trip line. And so my mind starts racing to figure out, why would he set a trip line? And I was like, 11. And then he does the secret code. And I'm like thinking out loud as we're watching this. I'm like, oh, secret knock. 11's in there. And sure enough, I was just totally, I know I was annoying, because you're like, shut up.
Yeah.
But I was so excited. Like,
you and Mom were talking the whole time, and I was like, be quiet, because you guys thought I was going to be the problem. Like, I even got duct tape, because whenever I tried to watch it that time with Colby, I was talking like the whole time. But no, you and Mom were talking the whole time. It was so annoying.
This scene was so good, though.
Yeah, so whenever I first watched that scene, I didn't notice the tripwire. So in the bar scene in season 1, he was talking about his daughter Sarah, who had just won the spelling bee, even though she was dead. So I was like, oh, he's probably just drunk, or he's making it up. So I thought he was like drunk again or something, and he was like either imagining Sarah, or he wasn't drunk, and he had like a girlfriend or wife, because there was a scene in season 1 where he was like with this lady, and then he goes outside and it's cold.
Yeah, like we never saw her again. It's that one scene. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, okay, that could be her or another lady or Sarah. So I didn't think it would be 11 until she like sat down, pretty much.
You didn't see the waffle on the table?
I wasn't paying attention.
Well, you were watching on your your iPhone 5S, that pretty tiny screen. So yeah. I can see how you missed a trip line and some of those details. Yeah. And I
kept pausing it like every 3 seconds, trying to get my brightness all the way up, and it was. And I was like, come on.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then 11 sat down, and I was like, oh, yes, 11, she's so pretty.
Yeah, I love the hair. I think I mentioned this.
Yeah, I love her hair.
Episode. Her curly hair. I don't know if it's real or if it's a perm like you were talking about last week, but yeah, it's really good to see her with
hair.
With hair, yeah. So, but the scene is so good, and I think that. Let's just leave it right there. Dinner first, then dessert. Great parental line there. And we'll leave it that there. We've got some other things I want to bring up. But first, let's segue into what will be a new feature for our podcast this season. That is our episode rating. Addie, I give you the honors. What was your episode rating?
10 bored kids in science. Actually, no. 11.
Oh, cranking it up to 11. That girl with the little paper thing, it was just like...
I know. I was like, that was actually us in like 4th grade.
It was so funny. The passing of the note, that was like our version of text messages back in the day. If you wanted to message somebody in class, you had to do it by passing a note and hoping it didn't get intercepted along the way. I gave it 10 flipped couch cushions. I can certainly identify flipping couch cushions looking for loose change, so you could go spend it. All right. Let's talk about why we rated this episode the way that we did. For me, this episode had everything that I wanted. I saw a couple of folks online, and now I'm in the danger zone for the next 2 months trying to stay spoiler free, which is extremely hard, especially when I'm trying to run our Twitter account and our Facebook. And Facebook is a little different. We can categorize things and start threads there, and people are more personally connected because you have to join our Facebook group and that sort of thing. On Twitter, it's free for all, and you can be tagged in something and get spoiled. Or if I search the hashtag Stranger Things, I could get spoiled. I have to be very, very careful on Twitter, especially. But I saw a couple people, I think, on Twitter who said that they were disappointed, and maybe one of them was on Facebook, and he said he had finished episode 2 of season 2, and so far was very disappointed. It was not at all like season 1. I don't know what his expectations were. I don't know what season 2 or episode 2 has to offer. Here's what I know. Here's my point of view. This episode had everything that I wanted. I wanted an update on the boys and their mental state. Here we are a year removed from this life-altering event that opened up their perception of what reality is and introduced them to, demonic creatures, if you will, if nothing else, and something that would fit the description of what you would think a demonic creature is. I'm not saying it's from hell. I'm just saying that that's the type of creature that it was. There's this upside down world. Their friend was captured. He came back and he's not the same. And that's traumatizing. So how are everybody else doing? How are they doing? How's Mike doing without 11? We got that answered. He's not doing so well. He misses 11. He yearns for her and wants to know if she's safe. That's his main concern. Are you out there? Are you safe? You don't
I
have
wish
to
someone
tell
cared about me that much.
I do.
I meant a guy my age.
Oh. So
you're like 80, but
whatever. So we got that. That's we set the stage. That's what I'm looking for, is an episode that sets the stage. We got an update on Will and more intrigue, right? There's something, he's seeing something. He's not right. He's being treated for PTSD and the doctors are not really in his corner. And so again, we got an update and there's more intrigue with that. I really liked that. And I mentioned that the lab, the doctors there was mystery with the lab. We know season 1 ended with Hopper getting into the car with the guys that we assume are associated with the lab in some way. I actually wish there had been a bit more on this. I know there's only so much you can cram into an episode, but at the same time, they can make these episodes as long as they want. They could have put a couple more minutes in there. I do wish we'd gotten a little bit more with that. I wanted an update on Elle, and boy, howdy, did we get an update on Elle. I mean, it was just a couple of minutes, but it was so good. That final scene for me made the episode, it was like the icing on top. That connection with her and Hopper was completely unexpected. It was an unexpected bonus, and it could not have been better. We got our hearts broken with Hopper in season 1 when we learned about Sarah. There's nothing worse in this world than the thought of a parent losing a child. Parents are supposed to die first. That's just the way that's the natural order of things. So anytime where a child dies before a parent, to me, is one of the absolute most heartbreaking things that can happen. And that happened to Hopper, and it's heartbreaking. And so now you see him getting to play a father figure to Elle. And we in just the 2 minutes that we got them on screen together, it was clear that was what was going on. And it was beautiful and it was respectful. I mean, you could tell he respected her. He wasn't just like this domineering father figure. There was love and respect, and she seemed to have that back to him. It was so good. And we had a couple of movies teased earlier in the episode. I don't know if we'll talk about those or not. One of those was Mr. Mom, which was actually shown just a small clip of that. And here's Hopper getting to play Mr. Mom a little bit. So I don't know. I just loved it. It gave me everything that I was looking for, and so that's why I gave it the 10 out of 10. So tell me why you loved it so much.
In all caps, I love it.
Yeah.
Still in all caps. They did such a great job, and it created new questions and answered old ones. And then not in caps. They did have a lot of stuff from the trailer. I mean, it wasn't really good, but it wasn't really bad either. I mean, I feel like they did use a lot of the stuff that we've already seen, but it wasn't really bad. So it just kind of puts everything into, like, I don't know. It just gives a little bit of background information. Like, oh, you saw this in the trailer. This is what's actually happening. Right. Like with the whole Nancy crying in the bathroom thing. And then this is in caps. Awesome new music. So yeah. Now, do you mean like the songs that they would put in, or like the instrumental music that which when you say new music, what? All of it. All of it. Okay. They did use some stuff from season 1. That was okay too, because I like season 1 music too. But yeah, I went on to Spotify and they did have the season 2 music on there. So I listened to like one of the songs, and then I was like, okay, I'm just going to add this whole thing to my Stranger Things playlist. Yeah, I have a Stranger Things playlist.
One of my favorite things about your appreciation for you appreciate a lot of things about this show, and it would be easy for you to just say, oh, I love the kids, you know, they're my age and I just think they're so neat and I follow them on social media.
I mean, that too, but
and you do that, and that's fine. You call them your children, and that's cool. Like, I have no problems with that, but it would be easy for you to just say that and stop there. One of the things I love most about your appreciation and enthusiasm for this show is that you include things like the music. You are a true fan of the music, and I have a feeling I feel I should. This is what I'm trying to say, that you truly appreciate the music and the craft and the workmanship and the art that goes into creating the music for the show. And I don't know that most people your age appreciate that. I know I certainly didn't when I was your age. It wasn't until Lost came along that I realized that the music can be a character in and of itself. And so, anyway, what I'm trying to say is I love that you love the music so much.
Cool.
All right, then.
Thanks, bro.
I was trying to find somewhere out there. There is a vinyl record. I think it's a 2-record set. Think Geek has it. Maybe that's where I saw it, because I was definitely shopping Think Geek earlier in the week. It's 2 LPs or 2 records featuring 39 tracks from Stranger Things. The albums are blue and red, like they're not just black. They have this great design on there, and a spatter style colored vinyl LPs. It includes an 11x17 poster and 5 4x6 character cards. So if you've got someone like Addie, who is a big fan of the music of Stranger Things, now you need a record player, which we have actually out in the garage.
We still have it?
We do.
I thought we got rid of it.
No, I'm not getting rid of that. It's awesome. So anyway, I love that you love the music so much. Let's move into our listener feedback segment, also known as Notes from the Upside Down. All right, so we have several, more than I thought we were going to get. You know, I understand that this first week, with it releasing Friday, and then we were originally going to record on Saturday, we pushed that back to Sunday this week to give you guys more time to submit feedback, which I think was helpful. Moving forward, we are going to be recording on Saturdays, and so The feedback deadline from here forward is going to be Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. You can go ahead and send in feedback for any episode. Just clearly tell us which episode it is for, and then we'll save it for whenever we do our podcast about that particular episode. But knowing that it was a tight turnaround for this first episode, we pushed our podcast back to Sunday this week and got some feedback in. So let's get it kicked off with our friend from the Upside Down, aka Australia. See what I did there?
Yep, and it wasn't funny.
All right. Well, here's Corey.
Hi, Addie. Hi, Daryl. This is Corey calling in for the first time with some feedback on Stranger Things Season 2, Episode 1, Mad Max. Before I get into it, I just wanted to say a thank you for starting the podcast. I listened along as you guys did the catch up on season 1, and that was a lot of fun. It was great to check out the series again before we got into season 2. So I'm very excited for the season to come, and I wanted to try and keep my feedback as tight as possible, I guess. So I thought maybe I would just go ahead and list off my top 3 Stranger Things I loved. So number 1, the gang is back together. Of course, we all know Mike, Dustin, and Lucas, but in season 1, Will was in the Upside Down, and we only ever really got a taste of him with his friends at the beginning of the season. So it was really cool to see the 4 guys back together, having some fun, playing some video games. And of course, 11's not there, so I'm not going to mention that as a thing that I loved, but her little tease at the end was actually a lot of fun for the episode. It was really a whet your appetite kind of episode, I think, for the season coming ahead. And I also love that they're using Whip It as kind of their goofy theme song as the guys sort of run around and are spying on this new girl in town, Max. Speaking of teasing, I really enjoyed the opening as well. Just the slightest tease that we got for who I guess we're going to be calling 8. Another experiment child out there who has abilities and has seemed to have been able to refine those abilities a bit more than 11. And obviously 8 looks a lot older than 11 is, so has probably had more time to do so. I'm really looking forward to where that's going. And my third Stranger thing I loved about this episode was the all-round 80s nostalgia. A lot of throwbacks, especially in the casting. And I have to say, the addition of Sean Astin, a stroke of genius. Of course, Sean Astin was one of the Goonies, very much a template for our group of boys here. And then, of course, Paul Reiser from Aliens. And especially when they got into the scene of them trying to burn back the alien tentacles that were coming out of the wall there. Of course, Ripley in Alien is well known for using a flamethrower quite often, and Paul Reiser himself is actually from Alien. So a lot of that nostalgia really brought a smile to my face. I'm going to throw out a prediction about Sean Astin's character, Bob. I think there's something a bit more nefarious going on there. I think they're going to try and play on the fact that he was in the Goonies, so maybe we'll let our guard down a bit, but I think there's something going on there. I think maybe he's infiltrated the family under the guise of being a boyfriend to Joyce. I hate to say it because poor woman deserves a fair go, but yeah, that's just a prediction I'm just going to throw out there now. Thanks again for the podcast, guys. I'll be listening throughout season 2, and yeah, that's me. Out.
Oh man, Corey, that thought had never occurred to me until you mentioned it just now. Oh, now Addison, obviously you know what the outcome will be at the end of the season for Bob, so you can't chime in here. Having said that, I mean, I think that would be intriguing, although I'm completely with you, Corey, in that it would, I mean, Joyce deserves a fair shake. She deserves to be treated. The idea of her having this man in her life who could, you know, because we saw her ex-husband and he's a terrible person. He's the worst person on the show. Well, maybe the Brenner or some of those scientists, but.
Or Steve.
You know, no, Steve's nowhere near, was it Lenny? Was that his name?
Lonnie,
that's it. Thank you. So yeah, it would be nice. Although someone said to me, gosh, he came out of nowhere. I mean, it's been a year, right? So a lot of things can happen in a year, but it's like, wow, where'd this guy come from? So I hope you're not right, though. I hope you're not right. I do think we were talking about this after church. We were in the car going to get lunch, and we were talking about Carrie, Addie's mom, and I. We grew up with Sean Astin, the Goonies you mentioned, and Winona Ryder. Beetlejuice was the first thing that I remember her from. She was in a couple of things before that, but Winona Ryder's been on my TV or film screen since 1987, 88, whatever that is, and Sean Astin since 83. So. Now here are these two people that I've grown up with, and they're making out on my TV screen, and it's weird. It's just weird from that point of view, like that they're still part of my life, and that's really cool. I like that they brought in Sean Astin for that point of view too. Those guys like Corey and I who have grown up with these people, it's kind of cool to see Sean on this show as well. So I guess we'll see if Corey's theory turns out to be true or not. All right, let's move into some written feedback that we got in. You want to take Justina?
Sure. Is she the girl that's doing the blog post?
Yeah, we'll talk about that one after you read it.
Okay. So she says, hi, waving emoji, Daryl and Addie. 1984 Easter eggs I noticed. Terminator is playing at the movie theater. Nancy has a Trapper Keeper, which is a cool Velcro binder to keep your folders together. Mine had puppies and rainbows. Rainbow emoji, and was full of Cabbage Patch and Muppet folders. Smiley face is reading the emoji. In 1984, I was in first grade. In 1984, I wasn't born yet.
Trying to think of what. 84, I was in third grade.
Okay. I think Will was judged pure of heart emoji, and the upside down by the monster. And that is why Will says the storm is not here for him. Perhaps the storm is after those using their powers for bad things, like the 8, who was helping robbers at the beginning of the episode. Episode gets 8 quarters and the couch cushions. Have a great week, Justina. She even rated the episode like we did. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. I like that. And as Addie mentioned, Justina is going to be writing the blog posts for our episodes this season. So we're really excited. I know Addie's really excited to have Justina on board doing that because Addie's been doing it and it's been a drudgery for her. So thank you, Justina. Although you should probably be thanking Justina, not me.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Let's move on to some tweets. We got several in from Ken in Chicago. Thanks, Ken, for keeping the dialogue open on Twitter. He says, wow. Now that's how you end the Stranger Things Season 2 debut episode. And clapping emojis and The Rock animated GIF where The Rock is clapping. He went on to say, when she's not freaking out over her missing son, it's nice to see Joyce calmer, even happy, still worried afterward, but not so frantic. Same goes for Jonathan, except being, he says frenetic. Maybe that's a word I'm not familiar with. So his vocabulary is probably larger than mine. He tended to being more morose. Nice to see him more cheerful and great bond with Will. Completely agree with you there, Ken. Speaking of Will Byers, he was the X Factor last season. Really nice to see or to get a sense of him as a buyer and as Will in the first pair of season 2 episodes. And by buyer, I mean apples don't fall far from the tree. Jonathan and Will, while different from Joyce and each other, we see that they are all family. Good stuff. So a little teaser there for season 2, not spoilery, or episode 2 rather. So good stuff.
And then Dan the Goat 26 says, worth the wait.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. And that was when I think I had sent out a question that said, what are your thoughts on Stranger Things Season 2, Episode 1? So,
I mean, I don't think we should have waited that long. And
yeah. But was it worth the wait?
Yeah, definitely. But I don't want to wait that long.
We also had a little bit of a discussion on Facebook. By the way, we're going to give our social media info here in just a second. And every week we'll have a discussion thread for that episode that we're talking about. So here's our discussion thread on Mad Max. Michael R., he said, Hawkins may be a small town, but having an arcade within biking distance, I would have been turning over couch cushions too. Totally with you, Mike. Jeff Childs commented about 8, and he says Mike says it makes you wonder if there are others. And, I think so too. I think there's at least 7 more.
Yeah.
Well, plus 9 and 10. So.
And then, 11, it says 011. And for 8, it says 008, instead of just the number. So what if there's at least 100? For the third digit?
I don't think that there are more. I think there are 11 because 11 was the one that escaped. So I think that was their most recent. But I think it means they had plans for 100 or more, up to.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty scary to think about. I said, wow, just watched the episode, going to give it 10 flipped couch cushions. So much to talk about this week. Jeff Childs, and said it was so good. The 47 minutes went by so fast. Linda Trent Beck said, I watched it on my laptop and it felt like I was actually there. She gives it 9.5 upside down arcades. No, make it a 10. Like that. A couple more comments. Mark DeCote said, I actually found the first episode a bit slow. It was good, mind you, but slow. I expected more. I liked episode 2 better. And that's all I've watched so far. And then the last feedbacker was Stephanie Zimmer. She says, I agree with Mark that it was a little slow in parts, but it did a good job of reconnecting us to the characters and where they are. I'm intrigued by some of the new characters and loved that the chief... Did he get promoted? Is housing Elle? I'm curious about why she's staying away from her friends, but time will tell. Very concerned about Will, but those special effects visions were amazing. Definitely excited to see more. So yeah, he was chief last season too, to answer your question on that. Why do you think, Addie, that Hopper is hiding Elle?
To protect her?
Why not tell the boys?
Well, I kind of know the answer to this, but it's also kind of obvious. They're middle school boys. How would you expect them not to tell anyone?
Yeah.
Their parents found out last time. They were they broke into the Wheeler house and they were interviewing the Wheelers and looking around for 11, even though she wasn't there. But yeah, so if something like that were to happen again. And what if they did find her? Then they could all get arrested.
Yeah, and the scientists would find out, and so there's as heartbreaking as it is to see Mike on the walkie-talkie. It's in his best interest to keep Elle a secret, but I think we all know that won't last through the season. But
I do think he could have let her respond, or at least tell, I don't know, not tell him where her location is, obviously, because if he really cares that much, then it's dangerous. Someone could find out, and the radio people could be listening, but at least, since Hopper knows about her, he has a connection with Mike and the kids since they worked together in season 1. Right. I think Hopper could have at least told Mike that she was okay.
Yeah, he could have. But again, it's a risk, and I think he just feels like it's a risk that he can't take at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Well, Justina mentioned some of the pop culture stuff, and so here's a list of what I mentioned. Corey mentioned Whip It, which is by Devo, fun little song. The newspaper that we saw mentioned something about Baby Faye. Baby Faye, I had to look this one back up because it rang a bell, but I couldn't remember. It was a baby that just 2 weeks prior to when this would have taken place chronologically, probably would have been making the news headlines about that time, was a newborn baby who actually had a heart transplant, but the heart was from a baboon.
What the heck?
Yeah, it was experimental, and that's why it was making headlines. She was the first infant to successfully undergo a heart transplant and live. Unfortunately, she only survived for a month. And she died in November of 1984. So that's Baby Faye. The Terminator, who mentioned that? Was it Justina or was it? I think it was Justina. Anyway, somebody mentioned The Terminator. That actually would have been premiering in theaters the week being depicted. So that would have been the hot movie in theaters. We saw or heard Rocky Like a Hurricane, which is from a band called the Scorpions.
The song's playing in my head.
Yeah, such a good song. The Scorpions were great in the 80s. One of their biggest hits came later. They were big probably through the 70s and into the 80s. In the end of the 80s, they were a German band. And so the falling of the Berlin Wall was obviously important to them. And they had a song called Winds of Change, which kind of told about that and the fall of communism and stuff like that. Great song. But that was, like I said, later in the 80s when that song comes to be. We saw on the bulletin board in Mr. Clark's classroom, I think the bulletin board said first woman to walk in space, which is not correct. It was the first American woman to walk in space, and that was Catherine D. Sullivan. That took place on October 11th, 1984. So that would have taken place 2 weeks prior to this episode. Big news. Reese's Pieces are mentioned in this as a favorite candy. Do you know what 1980s movie made Reese's Pieces big?
Gremlins.
Nope.
Wait. Was it? No, E.T.
E.T., that's right.
Because I knew there was like some like weird creature that liked eating them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We saw in the trailer in the Wheeler's Yard, the Reagan Bush sign. We talked about the Reagan Bush ticket in last week's episode. But I thought this was interesting, in the Henderson's yard, Dustin's yard, the counterpoint to that, which was the Mondale Ferraro ticket. Walter Mondale and I believe it was Geraldine Ferraro, if I remember right, was the vice president. That election was the biggest landslide in presidential election history since like the 1920s or something like that, 30s maybe. So in like 50 years, that was like the biggest. It was like 500 and something electoral votes to 13.
Dang.
Yeah, it was a butt whooping.
So which one won?
Reagan and Bush won that one. The 3 movies that Jonathan brought home from the video store, those were Mr. Mom, of course. We saw that one. In addition to that, War Games, which is a movie from 1983 that was talking about Russian espionage and like a Russian spy. And we've seen the Russians as part of this Cold War era is going on in this storyline. So that's still on the table. And the other movie was Twilight Zone, the movie. And this show definitely harkens back to some of the same feels and mystery and fun that the Twilight Zone and the Twilight Zone movie might have conjured up for some folks. Last 2, Kenny Rogers and David Bowie. 2 big artists in that time. David Bowie, we just lost 2 years ago, if my memory is correct. Kenny's still with us. My mom loved Kenny Rogers when Bob reacted the way, Kenny Rogers, woo! Or well, he said that about Mr. Mom, I guess. But anyway, he was talking about Kenny Rogers, and my mom felt the same way about Kenny Rogers. She had one of his albums and would play it, and we would have to listen to it. So I can identify with their sentiments of Kenny Rogers.
David Bowie died in 2016.
16, okay. So
you said 2 years ago.
I thought it had been 2 years, but it was in January though, wasn't it? So it's been almost 2 years. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all I have for this week, which means it is time, Addie.
For the meme of the week?
No.
Oh, for the quote of the week?
The quote of the week.
So the quote of the week is, "It's finger licking good," from Steve.
Here it is.
We hired a man named Murray Bauman. Have either of you heard of him?
No.
No, I don't think so.
He was an investigative journalist for the Chicago Sun-Times.
Pretty well known.
Anyway, he's freelance now, and he agreed to take the case.
Oh, that's great. That's really, that's great, right?
But what exactly does that mean?
It means he's gonna do what that lazy son of a bitch Jim Hoppy. Sorry. What the Hawkins police haven't been capable of doing. It means we have a real detective on the case.
It means we're going to find our Barb.
If anyone can find her, it's this man. He already has leads. By God, he's worth every last penny.
Is that why you're selling the house?
Oh, don't worry about us, sweetie. We're fine. More than fine. For the first time in a long time. We're hopeful.
Excuse me, I'll be right back.
His finger looking good.
We started laughing before it even happened.
That's like the fifth time I've heard that clip now, or that scene. Every time I just think it's so fun. And part of it's his demeanor is like, finger looking good. I don't know.
It's just so awkward.
Yeah. I got to tell you, KFC, like whoever's running their marketing department right now is on point. And I don't know if all this, I want to say they're geniuses and all this was carefully choreographed, knowing that they were going to have this big spot in Stranger Things episode 1 or season 2 episode 1, because they were making headlines all week as people were discovering that they only follow 11 people on Twitter. Some of them, and it's the 5 Spice Girls and 6 guys named Herb, 11 herbs and spices. That's all they follow on Twitter. And it's genius. And people started noticing it. I'm sure it was probably leaked by somebody who then, social travels. So they were filling up the news headlines this week on social media and stuff like that. And then they're being featured prominently with their slogan, finger licking good. So whatever they're doing, it's I don't know if it's helping their sales or not, but it sure is helping them get back into the conversation. So.
Yeah, and I want KFC. I mean, I always want KFC, but no, it sounds good.
Yeah. So I'm glad you picked that quote. It was a funny one.
This thing's at 15%. Can we wrap this up?
We're almost done. We're going to talk about some news. All right, we've got a few things to talk about in our news. We've got some really good stuff and a contest. So first thing, surprisingly, it is not too late to get the Stranger Things Loot Crate, the special edition Loot Crate from that is all full of Stranger Things. They're going to be shipping. We got a notification that it was going to be shipping in mid-November. So act now. Go over to goldenspiralmedia.com/loot. That's going to take you over there. You'll get to save $5 on a normal Loot Crate. I don't think that $5 is applicable to the specialty crate, but it also put $5 in our coffers, which is obviously something we would appreciate. But either way, if you want the specialty edition or special edition Loot Crate for Stranger Things, go get it. Act fast. It's going to be gone for too long. When ours comes in, we will do an unboxing on our Facebook page. So make sure you're following that's a word, or following us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/groups/Stranger Things GSM. Addie, do you want to take this next one? You want to click on that link and tell us what that is?
So this is from bleedingcool.com, and there are 8 new Funko Pop characters. And so there's 11, season 2, obviously. So she has like the longish hair, and then all the boys in their Ghostbusters outfits, which is amazing. I want all of them. And then you have season 2 Joyce. So she doesn't have the lights, and she has a different outfit.
It's her outfit from the store that she works in.
Yeah, the Walmart, pretty much.
I can't think of what it's called, but yeah, whatever it's called.
And then there's Max with her costume on, which I get the reference. I mean, you obviously don't, since
I don't. I think I'll get that in episode 2. That is a Hot Topic exclusive. The one with the Max with Halloween costume is a Hot Topic exclusive.
Oh, looks like we're going to go to Hot Topic.
Hot Topic.
Please stop. And then the last one is just regular Max, which I think this one's really cool too, because she has her little skateboard with her.
Mm-hmm. So what's really cool about that is all of those are pre-ordered and on their way mid-November to our house.
You got them?
I did.
You said no spasm.
I teased Addie this morning, or when we started, I said, you're going to have a freak out moment in our episode today. And she looks at me. She's like, what? I'm like, oh, you always have a freak out moment, knowing full well. And I knew full well that she was going to freak out at this moment in the episode.
You're mean.
What's even better is I had already pre-ordered them last night when I was asking you what your top 8. I made her put them in what's your top 1 to 8 and number them. And I had already picked them out and they're on their way.
You made me choose between my children. But to be fair, I didn't choose between the 4 Ghostbusters.
That's true. They were all lumped into one.
Yeah.
Like, it's all or nothing with those. Now, they have not yet released. I saw some place that they released October 31st. I saw somewhere else that they released November 6th. So they're not out yet, but they'll be releasing. And I got ours on eBay. That was the best place that I could find to get them. Another thing, we mentioned the Stranger Things game in our last episode. There is an update for that launched the day that season 2 launched. Be mindful of that. I think that I got spoiled a little bit when it comes to the character of Max. I'll find out as I go through the season. I could ask Addie, but then that would spoil me for sure. And so I'm just going to go along with it and see, when I find out, I find out. But, each character within the game has a special power or a skill that they bring to the team. And with Max's special power or skill, I'm just really intrigued by it. So I'll leave it at that. And so if you haven't yet played it and you're taking these episodes one at a time, just be mindful of that and maybe hold off on the game. Otherwise, the game is fantastic. It adds a new dungeon, adds Max as a character, and seems like there's a couple other scavenger items that you get to go find. So go check that out. Additionally, Addie, you want to take this next one?
For you Minecraft fans, there are Stranger Things skins that are available now.
It says the pack sells for $2.99 on Xbox One and Windows 10, and 490 mine coins on mobile.
What are mine coins?
I don't know. I've never played the game. And it's coming soon to Switch and other platforms like that. So, and then I think I read somewhere, did you read this, where there are like 50 some odd skins? They're all character skins. So go check that out for sure.
Yep.
All right. 2 final items. This one's really cool. So Gaten we saw this in season 1 where he has a condition that his character, they wrote into
Cleidocranial dysplasia.
That's right, CCD.
Why would they make that so hard to say? Like, could you just imagine having that and then not being able to pronounce it properly?
It's akin to the word lisp being as the word to someone who, if you have a lisp, saying the word lisp
is difficult.
Accentuates the lisp. It's torturous for those of us who have lisps. Anyway, you're right. This is really cool. So he has started a charity to help those with CCD get dental work or dentures. There's a great video. We're going to link to this in our show notes over at goldenspiralmedia.com. And this is Stranger Things season 2, episode 1, obviously. And so he partnered, or he got together with all these other Utahns who have CCD. Every person in the state that has CCD, it was like a dozen of them or so. And they had dinner together and were hanging out. And he's like, oh, by the way, I've got this charity. And looks over to one of the people at the table and is like, and you're the first beneficiary. And she's been going toothless for 12 years because her dentures, she's 30, her dentures no longer fit, and she couldn't afford to get the dental work or get anything else done. And she says, once I turned 18, I lost my insurance and the dentures never fit. So I went the whole 12 years with no teeth. And he is making a way for her and others like her to get teeth. So if you want to make a contribution to this or learn more, it is just amazingly cool. Gaten is just awesome. And his charity is called CCD Smiles, and you can find it at ccdsmiles.org. Pretty cool dude, isn't he? Mm-hmm.
I love Gaten.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
Awesome. Thank you, Gaten. If you happen to be listening to this, which I doubt you are, but if you are, thank you for doing cool stuff like that.
That'd be so cool if you was.
Yeah. All right, Addie, do you want to take the last news item?
There's a contest. The deadline is November 11th.
Do you remember what the contest is?
No.
Do you remember what the prize is?
Was it the shirt?
No. All right, I'll fill you in. It's okay. The prize is your choice of a gift card.
Oh,
to Amazon or Target for $25. You just let us know what you want or which place you want it to, and we'll get it out to you. To enter, what we originally said was send us a picture of your watch party. It could be anything, whatever you watching the show. And the deadline is to enter is November 11th, as Addie said. But then I remembered after I said it, this is Halloween week. If you're going in cosplay or dressing up as one of the characters for Halloween, we want to see that too. So basically, we just want to see a picture of you nerding out about Stranger Things. If you're in costume or if you're not, if you and your laptop or your TV watching the show, that's all. We just want to get a picture of you nerding out about Stranger Things. And you can send that to us via social media, or you can email it to us or whatever. So once again, our social media is on Twitter is Upside Down GSM. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/groups/Stranger Things GSM. And Instagram,
Stranger Things GSM.
And if you want to send in your feedback, you can do that by going over to goldenspiralmedia.com/feedback. Just choose Stranger Things from the drop-down menu, or call the voice feedback line, which is 304-837-2278. All right. One more item before we wrap things up today. Eddie?
The meme of the week.
The May of the week.
The meme of the week. So this is a picture of a lady holding puppies. So the caption is watching Stranger Things and falling in love with every character. So the lady says, "These are all adoptable puppies. I can't protect them."
Okay.
Yeah, it's the picture's really blurry.
Yeah, hopefully we'll look for a better quality than the one we're looking at, because she and I are both having a hard time reading it. But there's your May of the week. So go over to goldenspiralmedia.com for if you want to check out what this one is all about. Addie, I think that's it. We've come to the end.
Yep, laptop's at 5%.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to our podcast episode today. We'd love to have your thoughts on Season 2, Episode 2. We'll be recording that next Saturday, which will be the 4th of November. So if you want to have your feedback in for that, the deadline is 3 p.m. on Saturday. That's Eastern time, by the way. Once again, 304-837-2278 or goldenspiralmedia.com/feedback. And that's it. Thanks for joining us today. And until next time,
stay strange.